Alrighty, good morning, everybody. Hello, hello. How is everyone this lovely morning? It's a lovely Sunday morning. Today is July 3rd, 2022. I am Darkside Phil, and I welcome you here to the Level 1 podcast. How are you? Hope you're doing well. I hope you are ready for the second half of my streaming week because, yes, that's right, today is day 4 of 6. And today's going to be a great day. We've got not one, but 2 new game playthroughs beginning today. One of which I picked, and one of which you're picking. So I'm definitely excited here. I know that you guys are as well. First of all, I am completely soaked. My crotch, saturated, completely dripping, sopping wet. Why? Because I opened my seltzer this morning. For some odd reason, it was really strongly carbonated. I didn't shake it or anything. And as I twist the cap, it literally erupts up into the cap and squirts down like a jet of water. And it completely doused my crotch, the chair, the arm of the chair, and everything in front of me. So I had to run and grab a towel and dry off everything around me, because it was very, very wet. My poor phone got soaked. Luckily, I have a good case for the phone that encases it so, it doesn't get wet. But that's never happened that strongly before. It's happened before. I think what it is they over carbonate it. They put too much carbonation in it. Anyway, thank God it's just seltzer water. Imagine if it was soda. That's disgusting. It's sticky, sugary shit. That's why I drink seltzer water. Anyway, welcome to the Level 1 podcast, everyone. How are you doing? I hope, first of all, if you live in the United States, I hope you're having a good weekend. This is the July 4th Independence Day weekend. Many people have a 3-day weekend because tomorrow is indeed Independence Day, which a lot of people have off from school or work. And so, I hope you're having a good one. I don't know what you guys are up to. Here in Washington State, it's actually cloudy and cool today, which is good. We've had a lot of warm days over the last couple of weeks. It's good to have a nice cool day here. So currently I have my fan on blast, but I haven't turned on the actual air conditioner yet, although likely that'll change over the course of today's stream. So, what are we doing? Let's talk about today. Let's talk about a few different things, actually. Some interesting things to discuss today as we prepare for a full day of new game playthroughs, as well as upcoming events this coming week that are kind of out of the ordinary, just my standard gameplay stuff, okay? So, let's talk. Let's talk about the schedule first. Let's get this out of the way. And then we'll get into the other topics I'd like to talk about on today's podcast. So, today's gameplay streams, very exciting. Whenever there's a day with a new gameplay through premiering, it's exciting. But today's a double new playthrough. 2 new games I'll be playing. And what are they? Well, let's talk about the one I know about. This is a game that even since my early days as a YouTuber, way back when, I always just kind of assumed that this would end up being an epic playthrough if I were to ever play it. Because this is a game that I have history with. This is a game that, quite frankly, I to this day still feel that in the 1990s was one of the most overhyped video games I ever saw in my life. Not to say the game is bad, because I actually don't think the game is bad. But man, the way that this game, at that point in time, was so heavily hyped everywhere, and then after it came out, people kissing its butt, saying it's like the best game ever in this genre, and just non-stop kind of going crazy for it over the years. For me, I always tried to judge things fairly without the hype clouding my judgment. And so when I played it, I liked it, but I wasn't monstrously in love with this game like a lot of people were. I think what it really was, and we're going to talk about that, because that's one of the sub-segments of the podcast today, is I'm going to talk about my history with this game. But I feel like when it came out, because this was the first game in this franchise to ever be 3D. Previously, the franchise had always been 2D pixelated art. I feel like that's why it got the hype that it did. It was in the formative years of games moving over to polygons and everything. And because of that, it got just exploded in popularity. So the game we're going to be starting up today, a playthrough. No exaggeration, if you look back at my history, about 13 years in the making. Because it was actually about 13 years ago when I started up a little series that was really just meant to be kind of a joke series and then eventually blossomed into something completely different that I like to call Project 7. All right? Way back, I believe it was 2009, all right, on a whim, when I was experimenting with things on YouTube. And I was messing around with my content and trying to do some different things rather than just, gameplay with commentary over it. I did an edited video series, that was meant to be both suspenseful as well as just silly and stupid. In this video series, the proposal was that I was kidnapped by someone or something. I was locked inside of my condo where I lived in Connecticut at the time, and I was not allowed to leave. Instead, I was forced to play a game that I did not like, and I basically had to play it to fruition. It was like a way to kind of torture me, okay? Now, the idea for this series originally was that, yes, I was going to play the game and do a playthrough, but it was not going to be a full-fledged playthrough like the stuff that I was doing up to that point. Instead, it was going to be highlights of the game, parts of the game where I maybe felt were worth mentioning for either really good reasons or really bad reasons. A lot of people who've played this game over the years tend to gloss over some of the really weird parts of it and pretend like they don't exist, but only emphasize the parts that are admittedly really good. I wanted to emphasize everything about this game. I basically had been inspired by many different kind of content creators. I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this. One of the people who actually inspired me on the internet was Spoonie. I know, a lot of people say, Spoonie? Oh, God, that guy who fell off the planet and basically got canceled. Well, way back when, before he was canceled and when he was still a content creator that was prolific and popular for being with guys over at thatguywiththeglasses.com, he had done a series of highlighted gameplay where what he would do is do an edited series making fun of a game, poking at it for its flaws. And I believe he had done one. I can't remember what his first one was, but I think I had seen him do this with Final Fantasy VIII before. But I wanted to do it with Final Fantasy VII because this was one that everyone kissed its butt, and I didn't agree with that, okay? So that was kind of my idea, and this was a series of videos I put out in, I think it was 2009. I did 3 or 4 of them, and they were very silly and stupid. They were not meant to be anything serious. This was before I ever monetized any of my content. It was just me dicking around doing something ridiculous, okay? So, I did this video series with 0 gameplay, never even revealing the game that was involved in it. And then, basically, I just dropped it, never really went back to it. Years later, the whole thing was rebooted as something completely and utterly different, and it has nothing to do with the original project, okay? So, this is basically where things have been left, for many years. Over the years, I always dabbled in, hey, maybe one day I'll play this game. Hey, maybe one day we'll do it. And then it never happened. In fact, there was a really strong chance and opportunity for me to play this game a few years ago when I was preparing for its remake release. Yes, that's right. This game has been remade for modern audiences, only now it's a completely different game. And when that was happening, I announced to everyone, hey, maybe we should do this as a downtime playthrough. Maybe we should play this over the course of the summer to prepare for the impending remake release, coming out next year. And it was a big poll to determine, what I would play. And incidentally, a later game in this franchise won the poll rather than this one. So I ended up playing a later game that I had never played before, and I liked it, by the way. It was a good playthrough, but it was just kind of weird and unfortunate that I just never got around to playing this game after, 13 years of me kind of intending this is a no-brainer. This is one that I absolutely should be doing for my YouTube channel. Now, here's the good news. Today, I'm much different than I was back in the day as a content creator. I don't just put out gameplay videos with raw commentary over them as an isolated thing anymore. Now, I'm an interactive live streamer, right? We have fun conversation. We talk about the games that I'm playing. People contribute and then add their own takes. Sometimes they'll help me out with a part that I'm stuck on. So in this case, okay, this was actually a situation where I was nervous and worried that if I were ever to do a playthrough of this game that it wouldn't be entertaining, and here's why. Because in this situation, this game has parts in it that are roughly pretty challenging, okay? Very confusing in a lot of cases, all right? But now, knowing that I am an interactive content creator and I'm going to have a live audience along for the ride, I feel like this is going to be a lot more entertaining and fun. In addition to that, I really feel like having that interactive audience will add to an open world RPG experience. Meaning, if I was just playing this for myself and there's grinding parts, constant combat and things, it could be boring. But when I have a live audience to talk with while I play, it makes it a much better experience. I think of recent playthroughs, for example, Dragon Quest XI, Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon, where there's this kind of gameplay, and having the interactive live audience made those playthroughs so much better, because when I had to do that repetitive style turn-based gameplay, it didn't become boring and grindy because we kept it alive. We kept going with conversation and fun, you see? So, I'm very excited, for sure, to be playing this game. What game am I talking about? I haven't even said the name of the game yet. You realize that? Ladies and gentlemen, the game that we are talking about is Wild Arms on the PlayStation 1. Finally, because of PlayStation Plus Premium, I get to share this game with you today. Okay, no, that's not the game I'm talking about. The game I'm talking about, of course, is the original. It's not original, though. That's the thing. It's Final Fantasy VII. It's not the original. For a lot of people, they're like, oh, Final Fantasy VII, that's the one that started it all. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's Part 7. There were 6 other games before it and spin-offs. Like, I remember Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy, oh god, now I'm having a brain fart. There was other spin-off Final Fantasy games as well on the SNES that I had played. Not Tactics. There's one, that was like a light mode Final Fantasy. Now I can't remember the name of it. Shit, I've completely have a brain fart about it. But anyway, yeah, I haven't played this ever, for you guys. The last time, Mystic Quest, that's what it was, Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. Thank you, Ethan Jory. I actually really like Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. It's a game that I owned and played a lot back in the day. But anyway, yeah, this is a game that I've always intended on playing over the years and never got around to it. Now, I played it when it was new, and then I played it again in the early 2000s. It had a PC port, and I played the PC port. Incidentally, I think the version we're playing is the PC port now ported to the PlayStation 4, because the version of the game we're about to play is from 2015, when they had first announced the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and then they re-released the original Final Fantasy VII for PS4 to kind of bank on that announcement, hoping that a lot of people would want to play the original game. So that's the version we're playing today. It's available on PlayStation Plus, and being that I just became a PlayStation Plus Premium member, it's a no-brainer that we use this version, okay? Now, I am excited. I hope you guys are too. We're going to talk about my history with Final Fantasy VII in just a moment. That's going to be a segment here on the pre-stream today on the Level 1 podcast. But let's not jump the gun. Let's talk about the schedule for the rest of the week, okay? So, premiere Final Fantasy VII right now here on the stream. Very exciting. Later tonight, on the late stream, 6:45 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, it is the premiere of the Viewer's Choice game. And what is the Viewer's Choice game? I don't know yet, because the poll is still running, and we currently have a tie at 28% of the vote between Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link, which I would be playing on the Nintendo Switch Online service, or Fable Anniversary Edition, which I would be playing on Xbox Series X under Game Pass. It's a tie at 28%. So I don't know what's going to win, because right now it's a neck and neck, and overnight there's been a lot of voting. Now, here's the thing. If you haven't voted yet, you still can. And if you have voted, but you voted for a game that's not one of those two, I'm going to urge you to change your vote. What do I mean by that? When you vote on a poll on YouTube, you could change your vote after the fact. So if you've already voted, if you're one of the 2,000 or more people who've already voted on this poll, you can go change the vote to one of those two, so we can have a definitive winner as of tonight. Okay? So, please vote. Where do you vote? What am I talking about? Right here on the main channel page of DSP Gaming. Go to the community tab. Scroll down about 6 days. The poll's been running for almost a week. There's a poll down there, and you can vote in that poll. All right? Please do. Again, if you have not, or I urge you to change your vote if you had voted for a game that has no chance of making it. We need a definitive answer for tonight. Okay? Now, also, another thing I want to say. Don't be discouraged if you vote for a game and it doesn't win the poll tonight, and that's not what we play on the late stream. Why? If you look at the game schedule for July and August, it is pretty empty. In the entire month of July, there's only 2 major releases I'm interested in. Stray and As Dusk Falls. Outside of those 2 games, there is nothing going on. In August, pretty dead month. Are there a few releases? Yes, but most of them are actually towards the end of the month. In fact, I'll take a quick look here. Yeah, in August, there's 1 game early on, and outside of that, nothing till the 23rd. So when you're looking at the next 2 months, it's so dead that there's high potential for these kind of downtime chill playthroughs. And even if the game you're voting for ends up getting second place, there's an incredibly strong chance I'm going to be playing it anyway. Okay? So there you go. But we need a definitive winner for tonight. Please continue to vote. Whatever wins by tonight, that's what I'm playing on the late stream, and I will announce it between the streams, I guess. I'll have to check and see what ends up winning by tonight. Either Zelda 2 or Fable Anniversary Edition. Okay? Now, tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, is Independence Day here in the United States. All right? And in honor of Independence Day, I fully realize that many people, all right, are likely not going to be around tomorrow on the live stream. I get that. Now, if you're not in the United States, it's not a national holiday for you. It's not a big deal. You may be here. But for a lot of us, Independence Day is a day when you get together with your friends or family, you cook out, you do outdoor activities, you light fireworks, you do all these fun things that are off the internet, okay? So that being said, I am well aware that a large group of my audience that normally would be here on a live stream will likely not be here tomorrow for Independence Day, okay? I'm not stupid. So that being said, I don't want to set up anything major for tomorrow. I don't want to have it be a day that's like, oh, it's a must-view day, because if you're not here, you miss out on a critical part of a playthrough. So because of that, I decided that tomorrow I'm going to do some more casualized stuff. The main gameplay stream tomorrow, I'm going to be doing multiplayer of the Capcom Fighting Collection. I feel that some people may actually be playing this game during the course of the day because they have off from school or work, and maybe they'll have opportunity during the day to just kind of mess around with stuff, and maybe they'll play this game online. I don't know. But I feel like doing a multiplayer game on the 4th of July makes more sense than doing a narrative-based game where people can't attend and then the stream ends up having low attendance and everyone's disappointed they missed out on an important part of an ongoing playthrough. So that's what we're doing tomorrow. It is Capcom Fighting Collection on the main stream, and then tomorrow night on the late stream, I'm going to wrap up the very tail end, almost like the epilogue of the Sonic Origins playthrough. Currently, I'm at the very end of Sonic & Knuckles. I have about an hour left in the game to beat it. Once I beat it, since we may have a little bit of extra time, there's 2 different choices. Either I can just do some Q&A with my audience, or we can actually restart Sonic 3 or Sonic & Knuckles with Knuckles and mess around and see how Knuckles plays in the game. Now, I'm not committing to playing through the entire game with Knuckles, but I figure, hey, he's in there as a playable character. He does play significantly different from Sonic, so why not give him a shot? Just mess around a little bit, okay? That's what we're doing tomorrow night, all right? And then, on Tuesday, my final consecutive streaming day of this week, it'll be more Final Fantasy VII paired with more of whatever wins the Viewer's Choice poll tonight. Okay? And that's my streaming week. I'm off on Wednesday. Later on this week, we got all kinds of variety. Thursday, Ask the King returns. If you're not aware, Ask the King is my Q&A show, where for a very dedicated stream and podcast, I answer your questions live with really lengthy, intelligent, thought-out answers, as opposed to me just answering things on the fly like I usually do on a stream. If you haven't yet, I strongly recommend you post up your questions on my forums on DSPGaming.com. If you want the link, type in !, Ask the King into the stream chat right now, and the link will pop up. All right? Or just go to DSPGaming.com and go to the forums in the general area. You'll find it right there. Okay? Now, please post up your questions. The more questions I get for my Q&A show, the better it is. FYI, when I do Ask the King, the stream starts later than usual by a couple hours, because it gives me some opportunity to review your questions, pick the best ones, get my answers ready. There's also a special layout I have to do, and there's shout-outs and things I have to prepare for when I do Ask the King. So it'll be a stream starting a little later with an abridged level 1 podcast beforehand. It'll be a very short podcast that day. okay? All right, Thursday night, it will be the conclusion, maybe, I guess it depends on how well I do, but the likely conclusion of my playthrough of the Castlevania Anniversary Collection, meaning I am going to try to finish Super Castlevania 4. We're currently in Dracula's Castle right now, but we're in a very challenging part, and I get the feeling the game's just going to get harder the further in I get. I've actually never gotten as far in the game as I am right now, so this is my first chance to really finish the game, and I'm excited to see what the game has in the end game stuff. So that's going to be Thursday night. Then on Friday, the main gameplay stream will again be Final Fantasy VII, and then Friday night, it's going to be again Capcom Fighting Collection as Friday Night Fights. All right. Now, Saturday is a very special event. Saturday is a marathon event. Here's what we're doing on Saturday. First of all, I'm going to be reacting. That's right. DSP Reacts returns. It's not going to be me doing raw gameplay. It's going to be me watching some content on the internet and reacting to it. Now, we've talked about what it should be. And what I would like to do, perhaps tomorrow morning, is reveal to you the third YouTube channel that has explicitly given permission to react to their content. This is a channel that features things such as supernatural stories, true murder mysteries and documentaries, countdowns and the like. Interesting stuff, okay? And I've watched a few videos from this channel. I liked them. And I thought this would be some pretty interesting and different content for me to react to, because I, to this point, only reacted to game stuff, like game announcement, digital, presentations, or documentaries about Wings of Redemption or about me, so this will be something different, okay? And I'm excited for this and to see, how something like this would go. So I'm going to announce this channel likely tomorrow, okay? We'll see. Either tomorrow or Tuesday's Level 1 podcast, I will announce the channel, and this will give you guys an opportunity to take a look at the channel and maybe pick out a few videos and things that you'd like to see me react to this coming Saturday. I already have an idea of one or two, but obviously I'd like to get the opinion of my viewership as well, okay? So, I'm excited for that. Now, not only will I be doing a full marathon of React-style content, but there's two other things happening that day. Number one, Feasting with the King. I'll be ordering some food for delivery. We'll be trying out some kind of a cuisine for the very first time here live on stream. Currently, the choices that I've thought of are as follows. Number one, Szechuan Chinese. Number two, American barbecue. And one that we kind of talked about yesterday, and it's not set in stone yet, but it seems like a good idea, would be gourmet burgers, meaning I find a restaurant around here, not a chain, I'm not talking about Red Robin or some freaking fast food place, but a restaurant that does gourmet-style burgers, and order one or two gourmet burgers and sides to try here live on stream with you guys. I think that would be pretty neat, okay? So that's just an idea. If you guys have more idea of cuisine for me to try for the marathon on Saturday, please let me know. By the way, this is Saturday, July 9th. Let me clarify that for everyone. Mark your calendars, open your schedules, make yourself available this coming Saturday. You don't want to miss it. If you miss it, you're going to be very sad and upset with yourself that you didn't take the time to be here for the marathon. It's the most important thing going on July 9th. Trust me. Nothing else on this planet is going to be anywhere near as important as my marathon on July 9th. I know this. Anyway. So, in addition to that, not only are we going to be doing Feasting with the King, but in addition to that, also, I'm going to be doing my very next, second ever, fantasy simulation match in WWE 2K22. It's going to be just like last time, a 30-man, over-the-top rope battle royale featuring 30 fantasy characters created in-game. It's going to be pop culture characters, comic book characters, cartoon characters, content creators from the internet, celebrities, anything you can think of. We'll be facing off in this fantasy battle royale. If you remember, last time around, we had myself, Wings of Redemption, twice, LTG, and many others facing off against characters such as Sagat from Street Fighter and many other characters. So, excuse me, I'm excited for this. You guys really liked this fantasy match that I did about, it was a little over a month ago now, right? A little month and a half ago, maybe. You guys enjoyed it, so I'm looking forward to doing another one for you, okay? It should be a good time. So that's coming up this Saturday, July 9th. Then, for the second half of my streaming week, we're back to regular gameplay. And what I'm likely going to do is alternate. What I mean by that is one day I'll probably do like Final Fantasy VII. And then the other day, I'll probably do the Viewer's Choice playthrough. And then at nights, I'll probably alternate, maybe do some Capcom Fighting Collection. And then, likely what I will do is do something different for another kind of late night chill playthrough. Because if you're not aware, we beat Skyrim. That's done. We're about to complete Sonic. And we're about to complete Castlevania. So all of these playthroughs that were meant to be like chill playthroughs are ending. So I'm going to have to find something else to do nights to balance out with my late night streams. And I have a few ideas. One of them is a game that I had already tossed out there that we kind of put on the back burner. Maybe Super Mario Brothers 2, the American version, also known as Doki Doki Panic in Japan. I think that could be a neat playthrough to do for a few night streams. And then again, depending on how things are going, we could choose different games. There's a few things on PlayStation Plus Premium that I'm interested in. You guys had actually expressed your desire to see me play Toy Story 3 on Game Pass. That's a possibility. We have lots of possibilities to do, okay? And that's cool that we have these options that we can explore with all these things, not only on PlayStation Plus, but also on Game Pass, to kind of toss in as filler playthroughs while I'm juggling other major things, you see? So, I hope this all sounds good to you. All right, this is the schedule for the next week. Now, one thing that I want to point attention to, the members' goal for the month of July has been set and already adjusted. I was telling you guys over the last few days that I knew at one point there was a large number of gifted memberships that had hit in early June. And when we hit that equal time here in July, it was going to lower our number of members. And it did. We went from like 550 members down to like 490 last night. So we lost a bunch of members. None you could do. They were gifted. I'm sure some people will renew. In fact, some people have, because as you can see, we're up to 501 now. So we kind of started climbing back up again. So the members goal for the month is now 540. That's what I'm trying to hit for the month. If we hit 540 members at any point during the month of July, we will lock in to the next special marathon event. During that event, yes, we'll do another fun episode of Feasting with the King. And what I'm thinking of doing is reacting to a shorter style video. And what I mean by that is maybe pick like a half an hour video to react to, because you know they'll take like an hour or two. And then what would we do for the rest of the day? Well, I had this idea, unique idea based on things we had been talking about recently. All right? I will open my pants. No, I will open my closet over here. I will open the door like this. All right? And all of the skeletons will come tumbling out of the closet. Seriously. You have no idea the amount of skeletons that I have in my closet that are just waiting to jump out and be revealed live on stream and expose me live to the internet. Okay, Bone Meal. It's time to go back till Halloween. Sorry. Anyway. No. My closet is jam-packed full of goodies. And what I mean by that is that in there I have things from when I used to live in Connecticut over 8 years ago, packed into bins that have not been opened in 8 years, like a time capsule to my old life in Connecticut. Collectibles, decorations, games. I have old games in there buried, equipment, all kinds of shit. And then in addition to that, there's all this stuff that I've accumulated in the last 8 years since I've lived here in Washington State that's just sitting there untouched. Okay? So what I would like to do is take the opportunity to go through that stuff with all of you live and look at it all and say, what's of value that maybe I could use on a stream or I could put as a part of my content? What's not of any value that I want to throw out? And what's something that maybe I want to keep around just as a what if or maybe a backup thing? Because, for example, there's a PC in there that's very old, like over 10 years old, but it's a backup. If anything ever goes wrong with my setup, at least I have a bare bones thing that I could just put on a basic stream. I probably wouldn't even be able to do gameplay, but at least I'd be able to at least stream and talk to you guys until I get something figured out, you see? So, all those things that are trapped in the closet are just dying to get out. They want to be exposed. So, if we hit the members goal for this month, there'll be a fun marathon stream. Phil's coming out of the closet stream. All right, that's a terrible name for the stream. We definitely shouldn't call it that. We should think of something different, okay? We'll have to think of something different to name that stream. But it'll be a marathon of me checking that out. And then also, like I said, doing a smaller React style video. And then a Feasting with the King. So a different kind of marathon for sure. Okay? Okay. Anyway, of course, people are going nuts in the chat now. What a shocking surprise. It's funny because people keep saying to me, I don't think that's going to be very interesting. And then every day I look in this closet and I pull something out that has a story, and they're like, oh, what's that? And I'm like, well, let's just save it for the event. I bet you right now I could find you something interesting. All right? I bet you right now I could find you something fun. Let's see. What's that? Oh, God. I didn't even remember I had this. Look at this. This probably doesn't even work anymore. I almost guarantee you this doesn't. Wow. I bought this. I'm almost positive. I bought this in 2013, and I'm almost positive this would not even work on a modern PC anymore. Not even open. What is it? Well, you'll find out if we hit the members goal for the month. There you go. All right. All right, let's not jump the gun. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, right? We got to hit the members goal. So if you are not a member of this channel, I have to ask you, what are you waiting for? Here's the benefits. Highlight a name in stream chat. You don't have to abide by slow mode rules. You can talk as much as you want. A cool chat crown badge to show how long you've been a channel member. Access to all of my emotes, which are a ton. At this point, I'm trying to remember how many there are. There's a ridiculous amount of emotes here unlocked on the channel. Premium forum, no, not premium forum access. Premium access to polling is what I meant to say. For example, the current Viewer's Choice event that's starting tonight, members got to highlight nominations and vote exclusively for a game for them to be in the final poll. And of course, that was Batman Arkham Asylum, which looks like it's not going to win. But it was third place. Okay? But anyway, there's many benefits to being a member. All right? Please consider joining. And remember, gifted memberships are available on this channel. If you want to help out another fellow viewer, you want to contribute in a way that has nothing to do with directly, giving me something. But if you want to help out fellow viewers that like the content, you can gift a bunch of memberships to the channel, and that helps, man. Okay? Sounds good? All right. Very nice. So that's exciting. My nose is bothering me. It's funny, it wasn't bothering me at all, and all of a sudden my entire left nostril has stuffed up today. I don't know why. It's annoying. Okay. We got a lot of shout-outs to do, but first I want to talk about my history with Final Fantasy VII. So please allow me to talk about my history with Final Fantasy VII. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for a story. I think we will call this segment Story Time. Time for a Phil story time. Once upon a time, when I was growing up in the 1990s and video games were becoming more and more prominent, okay, I ended up becoming a fan of JRPGs in a very interesting way. I owned game consoles, but I didn't own any RPGs. I was playing games like Super Mario Brothers and the like. Well, a cousin of mine owned Dragon Warrior, which I believe was called Dragon Quest in Japan, but Dragon Warrior was the Americanized version of Dragon Quest for the NES, a turn-based game with random encounters and interesting menus and systems. It was kind of a sim as much as it was a game, you see? And I remember watching him play it, and I was intrigued. Now, I never owned Dragon Warrior myself, but I always watched my cousin play it and was wondering, how this game would play if I played it, or I wonder if there's other games like this. Fast forward to years later, And my other cousin, liking Dragon Warrior, had purchased Final Fantasy II for the Super Nintendo. Now, personally, at first, I wasn't sold on Final Fantasy II. My cousin was and wanted to play it, so she would play it all the time. And sometimes I would watch her play Final Fantasy II. Keep in mind, Final Fantasy II is Final Fantasy IV internationally, but it was called Final Fantasy II in the United States because there wasn't any ports of the real Final Fantasy II or III. They just skipped right from the original Final Fantasy I on NES to Final Fantasy IV on the SNES, so they called it Final Fantasy II. Okay? So, watching my cousin play it, I became intrigued. Why? Because it actually had an interesting, dramatic story. I wasn't used to that in video games. I was used to games with bleeps and bloops and squish a bunch of enemies and, you know, do something action-based. I was never accustomed to actually having an interesting story like that. In addition, the game had really good music, I felt. Compared to any of the other games at the time that I was playing, it felt very, very cinematic, very, very dramatic and epic. So after watching my cousin play Final Fantasy II for a while, I just started my own run. I went on a separate save file in the game. And it was funny because we would actually alternate between playing this game. I really liked it, but I found it very challenging. I had never played a game like that before. And then eventually, she was trying to beat the game and got stuck on the final boss for an exceptionally long period of time. If I remember, it was like weeks. She kept trying to beat the final boss and couldn't beat it. And I remember she went back and grinded in the final dungeon and then went back and was able to beat the game. So then, of course, I was inspired to go back and I went back and beat the game. But then I basically replayed that game a ton of times. Like maybe 3-4 different times. Each time trying to master different elements of the game, figure out stuff that previously I didn't know about it. I started going and looking for strategies and things like strategy guides and stuff that would have tips and things maybe in the games I didn't know. Basically, I went crazy on it and I absolutely loved it. And then I wanted to seek out other games that were like that. But at the time, I only had Super Nintendo, and actually it was the Sega Genesis that it had a lot of RPG franchises like Fantasy Star and stuff like that. So really, I was missing out on a lot of games of the JRPG genre at the time, only having the Super Nintendo. Eventually, Final Fantasy III came out. Again, this one was Final Fantasy VI worldwide, but it was called Final Fantasy III in the US because they never ported Final Fantasy V, so how are you going to go from 2 to 6? Doesn't make sense. So, Final Fantasy III, exceptionally good game. Really good, major improvements to Final Fantasy II. Even more characters this time around. Felt really interesting because you weren't playing the same character for the whole game. Like in Final Fantasy II, you're essentially playing Cecil. In Final Fantasy III, at any time during the story, you can end up playing as a variety of characters. You know, Terra, Locke, Celeste, Sabin or Edgar, the brothers, Setzer, among many others. All these characters become main characters during the course of the game that you can control and play their own little scenarios and stories. I absolutely loved Final Fantasy III. At the time, it was my favorite game of all time. It had beaten any other game that I had liked. But then, around that same time period, I started falling in love with Street Fighter in arcades. So it was kind of like this weird dual existence. I went to arcades to play competitive fighting games, and whenever I was home, I usually played JRPGs, okay? Then I just immersed myself. I started playing games like Chrono Trigger, all right? Secret of Mana, Earthbound, all right? Then I started to branch out and get other game consoles, and then as time went on, I ended up playing so many different RPG franchises. Seriously, like, you know, I mentioned Wild Arms, the Suikoden series, and other things like that, and later on, games like Xenoblade, geez, I could probably go on and on talking about all the Grandia, all the different RPGs I've played over the years. Like, I really loved JRPGs, okay? So, that's my history with JRPGs. But what about Final Fantasy VII, which is the subject matter of today, because that's what we're going to start playing, right? Well, I remember the era when we were leaving 16-bit and we were heading into the future. We had the Nintendo 64, and then we had the PlayStation 1. Those were essentially your two options. I mean, yes, there was the Sega Saturn, but in the United States, I don't know how many of you were American like me, it wasn't a big deal. The Saturn actually was a huge flop in the United States. Within a year of its launch, it had failed so badly, you could buy the Saturn for like $50 at a store and a ton of games for like another $50. I did that. I went to Toys R Us and they were doing basically liquidation of the inventory. And for $100, I ended up coming home with a Saturn, an extra controller, and like 10 games for $100. because they just wanted to get rid of their inventory. But PlayStation and Nintendo 64 were in a heated battle, all right, for market share. Everyone thought at first that Final Fantasy VII was going to end up being a Nintendo exclusive. All the Final Fantasy games up to that point had been either on the NES or the Super NES. So it was a no-brainer that the next one was actually going to be on Nintendo. And it was funny because for the first time ever, Square, well, they were Square Soft back then, by the way, not Square Enix. This was before the two companies merged. Announced that it was going to be called Final Fantasy VII, to which Americans started scratching their heads and said, but the last one released here was Final Fantasy III. What happened to Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6? It's confusing as shit. Where the hell are the games, right? It was this time that we started to learn about the differences between American and Japanese releases and how frequently games would be completely renamed for different audiences. And of course, the confusion that it led to. But basically, once Final Fantasy VII was coming out, they were like, fuck that. From now on, we're just going to follow the correct numbers of these installments so that people worldwide know exactly what we're talking about, okay? Now, originally, Final Fantasy VII was rumored and was heavily being talked about as being an N64 game. But then all of a sudden, at one point during its development, it was shifted over and announced for the first time ever it would actually be on a different console, the PlayStation 1. And if I remember correctly, the reasoning was they had looked at the capabilities of the N64, which was cartridge-based, still had cartridges to plug into your console, and realized cartridges weren't going to have enough storage capacity, nor have modern enough technology to really do what they wanted to do with this game. They wanted to have really CD quality audio. They wanted to have a vast world. And having it on a cartridge was not going to be possible. In addition, making cartridges was very expensive compared to just publishing a CD to pump into a game console. So by making Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation, they were able to make this game a multiple disc game. It was actually one of the first major games that people bought back in the day, that when you bought it, it was a big case of games. It wasn't just one disc, it was a case with multiple CDs that you would have to switch at one point during the story to continue on playing the game. So, I remember the hype for Final Fantasy VII. Now, here's the thing. It's not that there wasn't hype for Final Fantasy games before this. Absolutely there was. But Final Fantasy VII is really the first time in my life that I remember a game getting major media blitz style hype. What I mean by that is every gaming magazine was covering Final Fantasy VII at length. Every aspect of its development, little tidbits of information, anything a game magazine said about Final Fantasy VII, that magazine would sell like hotcakes, okay? I remember everyone being so hyped. The date, I can't remember exactly the release date, but it was like everyone was hyped for the release date. People were pre-ordering the game. That was unheard of. At this point in history, people were not pre-ordering video games. They would just go to the store on release day and buy them, and usually there was no issue with the game selling out. In the case of Final Fantasy VII, the hype was so real that game stores were warning everyone, if you don't pre-order this game, you'll likely not get it at release. You have to pre-order to lock in your guarantee. And I even remember, this was one of the very few times at this point in history where you would get a pre-order bonus at Electronics Boutique. That's right, EB Games or Electronics Boutique, not GameStop. We're talking the predecessor to that. Electronics Boutique was offering a poster, and then on the other side of the poster, a map of the world of Final Fantasy VII as a pre-order bonus if you ordered it ahead of time, okay? So, it was ridiculous. It was so hyped. It was, and I remember looking at the pictures in magazines and everything and saying, I don't know about this. You know, I'm used to the pixelated graphics, the 16-bit style graphics of Final Fantasy up to this point. I was in love with the Super Nintendo and its graphics. I thought that console was absolutely amazing, and I was fine with that. Now, I had already been experienced to some extent of games moving into the 3D era. In arcades, games like Virtua Fighter and Tekken had moved fighting games from a 2D pixelated hand-drawn art style into 3D renders. And let's be honest, go take a look at Virtua Fighter 1 and Tekken 1. You tell me what you think they look like today. Because that's what 3D looked like back in the day when games were moving from pixels to polygons. And I was like, dude, if it's anything like these arcade games, I don't want Final Fantasy to look like that. I would rather have pixel art. In my opinion, it looked better, all right? So I was very skeptical. But pretty much everyone bought into the hype. People who had never played Final Fantasy before were insanely hyped for Final Fantasy VII coming out, okay? I actually remember the day that it came out going to Electronics Boutique. I had pre-ordered it, and I went to Electronics Boutique to get the game. And there was a line of people, unheard of. You would never go to a game store, and there was a giant line of people buying the game at this time. This was one of the first times it ever happened. And I remember being in line, and like 3 spots ahead of me in line, there's a guy, kind of a nerdy guy, all right, picking up Final Fantasy VII. We're all there for it. That's what the line is for. And the EB Games worker says to the guy, "Sir, I'm sorry, but we've run out of the pre-order poster. This game has unprecedented amounts of interest, you know, far more than I guess EB had anticipated. They only had a certain amount of these posters / maps to give out per store, and they had run out." He's like, "So I'm very sorry, but we don't have any more." And the guy went ballistic. He was fucking pissed. He's like, "I pre-ordered like everyone else. I waited in this line. Who are you to tell me I want one right now?" And they're like, "Dude, they don't have it. We don't have one. How can I give you something we don't have? We don't have to fucking draw it for you, you know?" And the guy was like so ripping pissed. His face got red. I remember. And now, of course, I didn't really care that I didn't get the poster or whatever. But, you know, at this time, again, it was something, it was almost like I was there for the launch of Final Fantasy VII, and I got the launch poster. And here it is. It's prestigious. I'll show it to you years later, right? I was there for the moment. And that guy didn't get it. So he went home and he probably cried himself to sleep. But anyway, I remember when I first played Final Fantasy VII, putting it into my PlayStation 1. And the first thing I said was, "Fuck, the load times suck, man. I hate..." That was one of the things from the jump from 16-bit to CD-based, load times. There were no real load times until then. Cartridges were like instant loading. And to actually have to sit there and wait for loading was a pain in the fucking ass for people like me who had never had that experience before, okay? But I remember I was completely torn on this game. And here's why. I didn't like the graphics. I thought having these pre-rendered backgrounds with 3D pixelated polygon characters, they didn't look good. I would have preferred the 16-bit style. I wanted the characters to look like that. I was pissed that they had rendered them all in 3D because I didn't think they looked very good at the time, okay? The music. I'll be honest with you guys, I was kind of disappointed, and here's why. If you listen to the soundtrack of Final Fantasy VII, not a remixed soundtrack, but the original, like we're going to hear when I play the game today, the music sounds like MIDI music. It doesn't sound stereo or CD quality. It sounds kind of garbled. And I was like, if we're moving to the CD era, games are on CDs, why does this not sound like a band is playing the music? There were other games that had that. There were other games that had full CD quality music at the time, and Final Fantasy VII did not. And I was actually really disappointed with that. I don't get it. I thought that it was supposed to sound better than this if your games are on a CD. Why does it sound so inferior compared to what I was expecting? Now, in reality, you know, long term, now that I listen to the soundtrack of Final Fantasy VII, I actually like it. I do. At the time, I didn't, for whatever reason. But now I think about some of the kicking tunes of the game, like Cosmo Canyon, or the boss theme, or Genova's theme, or the Sephiroth theme at the end of the game, or the Sephiroth, or whatever it is. Those are some epic fucking songs. They sound absolutely amazing. And to this day, people still think of those games as synonymous as some of the best gaming music of all time. You know, what's his name? Nobuo Uematsu, the composer of Final Fantasy. This was some of his best work he'd ever done. But back then, in the frame of reference of that time, I was disappointed with Final Fantasy VII. And as I played the game, I could definitely tell you guys, the thing that I most disliked about the game was the plot. And the reason I say that is, even though the game featured one of the biggest plot twists of all time, meaning one of your main characters actually dies and does not continue with you for the rest of the game and never comes back from the dead. This was unheard of at the time. There were games where characters died, okay? But Never did a main character disappear and be gone for the rest of the game. I had experienced loss before in previous Final Fantasy games, right? I mean, take a look at a game like Final Fantasy II/4, where one of the early on party members, Tella, ends up passing away at one point during the game. So I'd seen this happen before, but in this case, this is one of the main characters. It's like, whoa, that blew me away that they did that in the plot. But that being said, overall, I didn't like the plot of the game. I felt that Cloud was the weakest protagonist that I had played so far in Final Fantasy. Keep in mind, the other Final Fantasy games I had played, Final Fantasy II featured Cecil, a very interesting character. The beginning of the game, he's a very loyal soldier. He's doing everything his king is telling him, not questioning it, even though he feels emotionally and morally torn on the inside that what he's doing is wrong. He's just doing what he's told by those in power. Then eventually he basically turns against that, tries to be, his own guy, and eventually breaks free of his Dark Knight persona, becoming a paladin. And now for the rest of the game, he's trying to save the world and do what's right when he uncovers a hidden conspiracy. Okay? That's a pretty strong character. All right? Now take a look at Final Fantasy III/6. Ridiculous amounts of interesting characters, right? Like I said, Terra, who starts off as almost like a blank slate, but over the course of the game starts to remember who she is and discover who she is as a person. Locke, who's a really well-written character, really interesting history as you uncover his story during the course of the game. Celeste, same thing, kind of almost like a Cecil character, where she's working for the Empire, but then eventually has to realize that the Empire is bad and has to turn against them. And the game has so many strong, well-written characters. And then you play Final Fantasy VII, and Cloud is just so fucking boring. He is annoying. He is like the most boring protagonist. Now the thing is, the game actually does a good job of explaining why later on, the further you get into the game. But you have to get pretty far into the game to finally get an explanation of why your main character sucks. And I remember playing Final Fantasy VII and saying, I like everyone else. I like Barrett. I like Aerith. I like Red 13. I like every character that you were introduced to over the course of the game. I liked. Cloud I fucking hated, and that was the character you're stuck with the whole fucking game. I'm like, man, I'm stuck with this shit. So anyway, I just remember, but here's the thing. I was torn, and here's why I was torn. Because I really liked the gameplay of the game. I felt what they did with the combat engine and the materia system was the logical evolution of what they had previously done in Final Fantasy VI, where every character has a limit break, and you could level that up and or get new limit breaks over the course of the campaign of the game, making the characters change over time and evolve. In addition, the materia system was the logical evolution of what they had done with the Magicite system in Final Fantasy VI, and I really liked the Magicite system, so to see that be carried on and improved in Final Fantasy VII, I absolutely loved, okay? So, all that being said, it was definitely kind of a torn feeling. I was like, oh, I like this a lot, but I don't like this. Anyway, by the time that I finished the game, to say that I was disappointed would be a major understatement, because I don't want to spoil, because many of you don't know how Final Fantasy VII ends, because the Final Fantasy VII remake that we all played a couple years ago is not this game. I should clarify this. This game will start off similar to the Final Fantasy VII remake, but as you're going to see as we play along the original, that remake takes a lot of creative liberties with things that happen in the game, and or adds a lot of supplementary content that's not present in this game, and then this game just continues on from there in a very different fashion. Once the game goes open world, essentially it's a whole new game compared to Final Fantasy VII remake, and that's only 1/3 of the game. There's another 2/3 left that you guys may not have seen if you never played the original game, okay? So, I'm very excited, all right, to play this game again for many different reasons. Number one, I know I'm going to like the gameplay. It's addicting, it's fun, and I love that turn-based style of gameplay for JRPGs. But now, as an adult, 40 years old, last time I played this game, I was probably like 20, okay? 40-year-old, playing the game, perhaps I will appreciate the plot more this time around. Maybe I'll like the game a lot more this time around. I don't know. We're going to find out as I play through it, the difference maybe between the remake and this, but also how will I feel about certain characters? How will I feel about certain plot points and gameplay elements? There's dungeons that I remember absolutely hating in the game. Maybe I won't hate them anymore. Or vice versa. Maybe there's things I used to like that I will hate this time. I don't know. But also, having an interactive audience is going to be amazing because it's going to just be a completely original and different experience, re-experiencing Final Fantasy VII with you guys. I know it will be. I've played other games now with this audience that have changed the way that I thought about the game. Skyrim, we just finished. That was an epic 6-month playthrough, 140 hours. That was completely different from my original playthrough. Holy shit, it couldn't be any more different, right? That's what I mean. I really feel like this is going to be exciting to re-experience this game and try to be honest about it, you know, try to be transparent about my thoughts while also all of us enjoying and you guys maybe telling you what you think too, right? So I'm very, very excited. I hope you guys are too. This is going to be a good one for the summer. And by the way, I'm so happy I get to do this. I wanted to do this 2 to 3 years ago, but you guys wanted Final Fantasy IX, which I was okay with, but then we didn't have time to do it, and then the remake came out, and we didn't have time to prepare for the remake. So I wasn't able at that time to directly compare the original game to the remake because I hadn't played the original game in so long. Now that there's the announcement of the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coming out, which is now the second part of a remake trilogy, this is excellent because we'll be able to re-experience the original. And then when the Rebirth comes out, we can see the differences in the plot from the original and this new one, where I know for a fact there's certain characters that are alive in Rebirth that have passed away in the regular Final Fantasy VII, and we'll be able to see the differences, okay? Excuse me. Hui. So, a lot of people have a midlife crisis, right? They hit like 40 years old, and they start to look at their life, and they freak out. Oh my God, I'm locked into a family life I hate. I'll never get out of this. So what do? They run out, and they blow all their money, and they buy a convertible, and they drive around in like a Ferrari or, you know, a fucking sports car, and they freak out. What do? I say, oh, I like my life at 40, but I want to replay Final Fantasy VII. This is my midlife playthrough. Final Fantasy VII is being marked officially as my midlife playthrough. What do you think about that? Anyway. All right. That's pretty much what I have to say about the game. I'm very excited. Oh, by the way, you would think running on PlayStation 5, this thing will be like instant loading, which is going to actually immediately take away a lot of my complaints about the original game, is that the loading time sucked. But since we're on a modern console, maybe it'll be just like this and it won't be an issue, right? That would be excellent if we can actually not have that problem. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Level 1 podcast and to my story about Final Fantasy VII. I hope that you've enjoyed it. And I hope that you will join me, all right, for this very fun playthrough over the course of this month. And let's be honest, this game is very lengthy, so likely it's going to end up being balanced into next month as well. Although what I would like is to finish this within, say, a month and a half. Maybe have time to play the other RPG I was interested in, if you're not aware. I was also very interested in playing Earthbound, but there's absolutely no way I'm playing Earthbound and Final Fantasy VII at the same time. So maybe if we do wrap this playthrough up, say, by like early August, maybe we would have time to do that as well. I would love to do that, but let's see. I don't want to pressure myself. I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. Let's see how Final Fantasy VII goes. And by the way, I really hope that you guys will show up for these streams. I'll be honest with you, I'm a little nervous that there will be ongoing support for Final Fantasy VII. Maybe it'll be something that on a whim, you know, at first people check out and then it'll kind of die out. This happens with RPGs. But I would hope, because it's the big RPG that everyone talks about, and it's the first time I'm ever playing it with you guys, that hopefully it would garner some interest and people will show up and engage and support, and it'll be a fun playthrough for the summer, not a dud. I am nervous. I'll be honest. I'm nervous it's going to be a dud. That we're going to have one stream that's good, and then after that, it's just going to fizzle out. I hope not. Okay? Okay. Let's get to shout-outs, because you guys have been contributing like crazy this morning. And I want to shout out all your contributions. So here we go. We start off today, excuse me, with Ruby, who did a $2 super chat and said, hi. Hello, Ruby. How are you? Thank you for the super chat. Alex from Phoenix re-upped his membership for 2 months. He says, I got a silver crown now. Yes, you do. Thank you very much, Alex for Phoenix, for the 2 months of support. Zane has re-upped their membership for 14 months and says, that one gave me a good laugh. I don't know what Zane's referencing. Maybe me being coming out of the closet, perhaps. Phil's coming out of the closet marathon. A marathon of me coming out of the closet. Now that's something else. There you go. Guitar Player did a super chat and says, you should call it Phil's coming out of his shell stream. Oh, God. And we should watch the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles coming out of their shells tour documentary while I do it. No, we're not doing that. It's terrible. Thank you for the super chat. Ruby did another super chat and says, you should call the event Phil finally lets his in-laws out of the closet for a cookout. I don't get that one. Excuse me. 672 did a super chat and says, Kevin, please come back. Malcolm forgives you. We all do. Shall I address this now to get out of the way? So for those who have no idea what this Kevin shit is about, Kevin Bernstein, the longtime viewer and supporter of this stream and this channel, okay? Basically, the other day, when I was finishing Skyrim, I was in the finale of Skyrim, was talking with other chatters, and was talking with this particular supporter, Malcolm, and said to Malcolm, hey, I really want to see the Sonic hat happen tonight, and the Sonic hat had been set that if we hit the tips goal for the night, I was going to put on the Sonic the Hedgehog hat. So he says, if you basically contribute like $100 in tips, I'll match that, and then we'll hit the goals for the night, and then Phil will put on the Sonic hat. So Malcolm says, oh, okay, and he did a $100 tip, and then Kevin disappeared and hasn't come back since. Now, how do I feel about that? First of all, I didn't even see it happen. I was playing Skyrim. I was in the big Alduin finale fight, and I actually had screwed myself over by doing a Dragon Shout that wasn't Dragon Rend. You can only hurt Alduin when you hit him with Dragon Rend, which I didn't remember. So here I am, waiting 10 minutes for the fucking thing to cool down, and it's not cooling down. I'm freaking out, and I'm trying to figure this out, and I keep looking at the chat, and everyone's arguing in the chat about this. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So I kind of zoned out from the chat and focused on the game, and I eventually beat the game. And then I turned back to the chat, and basically everyone was upset with Kevin, with how this had gone down, okay? So I'm like, I wasn't there live watching to see what happened. I don't know exactly what promises Kevin made. All I know is what people have told me, and what they've told me is that, yeah, he totally was spearheading this support for the stream, telling Malcolm and egging him on, saying, yes, if you tip, I'll tip, and then he just purposely dipped afterward when the tip came in from Malcolm and never came back. Now, to give you my perspective on this, you guys remember a few months ago when we caught out Kevin for taking credit for other people's tips, right? Like, people would tip anonymously or under a name that wasn't matching in the stream chat, and then Kevin would say things like, oh, yeah, that was me, I saved the stream tonight, and everyone would be like, oh, thanks, Kevin. And then I realized it wasn't him. And I called him out for it, and I was like, dude, that's not right to do that. You can't take credit for other people's contributions. Now they feel bad, and now, you know what I mean? That's completely wrong. And after basically being called out for it, he apologized for it. And essentially that was the end of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we never really talked about it again. We kind of just buried it and said whatever. And then this was months ago. So now, fast forward to, the other night, and this happens. Now, some people have said to me, well, Phil, what are you going to do about it, Phil? This, what do you mean, what am I going to do about it? What do you want me to do about it? First of all, Kevin hasn't been back to answer for himself on what happened. He hasn't been able to defend himself or say a word about it because he hasn't returned to the streams. So, at the very least, you can't say a word about it. I can't do anything about it until he's back. If he decides to come back and say something about it, that's different. But he hasn't been back. And without him coming back, there's nothing that can be done. I can't, you're like, oh, why don't you ban him? First of all, you can't ban someone on YouTube like that. It's not easy. There's no history to even find his account or whatever. Usually, if you want to ban someone, they have to be in the chat to do it. So I don't really have a means to do that, even if I wanted to. And again, on top of that, I'm not going to go out of my way to track down Kevin and ban his fucking YouTube account when he's not in the chat. Like, that's stupid. You know what I'm saying? So that being said, Um, no, I'm not going to go out of my way, and I'm not going to actively do anything in regards to this issue. If he comes back, obviously, yes, we're going to want to hear what he has to say for himself, because obviously it was pretty dishonest what he did. He basically convinced Malcolm that he was going to do something that he never did. Now, in the meantime, I have spoken with Malcolm, and we're cool. It wasn't like Malcolm's upset that he contributed to that stream, and then, you know, Kevin didn't match. I mean, is he upset? Yeah, Kevin lied, but at the same time, it's not like he was upset that he contributed. That was the whole intention. And by the way, I put the Sonic hat on that night, regardless of any goal being reached. I put it on anyway, you see? So, anyway, so that's being said, we'll see what happens in the future. Kevin very well may never come back, and then it's not an issue anymore. Kevin could come back and say something that justifies what he did. He may come back and say something that doesn't justify what he did. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't really care. I'll be honest with you. I'm not one for drama. I don't really give a shit. If he does come back, we're going to try to squash it pretty quick, because I don't want to have drama on my streams. I just want to enjoy myself and chill with you guys. You know me. You guys have been talking about this endlessly for like a week. I don't give a shit. To me, it's already done. I don't give a fuck. Oh, people are like, oh, Kevin owes you $100. Kevin doesn't owe me anything. He didn't fucking owe me $1. If he comes to the stream, great. If he doesn't, great. If he comes and he supports the stream, great. If he doesn't, great. I don't care. I just don't care. I'm so past drama shit like this. I don't give a fuck. Okay? Okay. All right. Let's continue on. Kyle did a super chat saying I would pay. I have no idea what that means, but thank you, Kyle, for the super chat. Abdullah has re-upped his membership for 5 months. Thank you, Abdullah. And he says, here's a game in PS Plus, The Messenger. I hope you. Oh, I'm rereading this. Here's a game that's on PS Plus, The Messenger. Then he was saying something else. I hope you, but it got cut off. The Messenger? I wonder what kind of game that is. I don't think we highlighted it or really looked into it. But you're saying it's on PS Plus? All right, thank you for re-upping your membership, by the way, Abdullah. I appreciate that. And then the latest super chatter is TJ Behemoth. He says, America doesn't deserve a birthday party this year. Well, there you go. America, you're grounded. TJ Behemoth is very upset with you. I can't type TJ Behemoth for some reason. TJ Behemoth is very upset with you, America. Oh, Abdullah in the stream chat says, I hope you'll try it. I couldn't continue because of the limit. It's an indie game that plays like Ninja Gaiden on the NES. Oh, I see. Wait a minute. It says you just re-upped your membership, but in the chat it doesn't show that you're a member. What happened? Is it a glitch? I think it is, because it says you re-upped your membership for 5 months, but then it doesn't show you as a member in the chat. That's weird. I've never seen that happen before. I wonder if there's a weird glitch going on. What the hell? Do you have access to all of your perks, Abdullah? Like, can you see do you see the emotes and everything? This is weird. I've certainly never seen that before. TJ Behemoth just became a member at the super supporter level. Thank you, TJ Behemoth, for the super level of support. I appreciate that. Awesome. Okay. Anyway, let's switch over to the tip side of things now, because I have tips to shout out. First tip of the day is from Uzi Gohard, who took $1.50 and says, I just got off work. I'm on level 9. I decided to swing by level 1 and check on you. Cool. How is that going on level 9? Level 9's that annoying one. That's the one where there's the weather effect. So you're trying to jump, but the wind keeps pushing you back in the middle of your jump, and you get pushed off the cliff for a cheap instant death. I hate that level. That's why I like chilling here on level 1. On level 1, everything's nice and easy, man. The enemies, your blade, it just goes right through them like butter. Just insta-kill. You're just beheading enemies left and right. That's where you get the cool shuriken you're tossing. You kill them all instantly. Oh, level 1's where it's at, man. You can't be on level 9. Fuck that shit. You gotta want to be on level 1. Very nice. Let's continue on. Chuckles the Hut has tipped $4.20. and says, rest in peace to your seltzer. That's right, that exploded all over me this morning. Ready for some good times with Final Fantasy VII. Sounds good. Me too. I'm excited to finally be playing the original game and see what we think about it. I mean, I'm excited to see what I think about it after all these years playing the original. It's been so long since I played it that I'm curious, you know, will my opinion have changed? Right? I guess we'll find out. My nose itches. Snow Carl to the $1.50. Saying, you always mention you drink seltzer water or other carbonated drinks. I'm curious, do you ever drink just regular plain water? Yeah, it's right here. This is filtered water, pure, P-U-R, that I drink from my thermos. You should be careful about carbonation. It's harmful for teeth and the tummy. What? You think carbonation is harmful for your teeth? Really? This is the first time I've heard that drinking seltzer water could hurt your stomach. Your teeth. In fact, I've heard the opposite. Seltzer water helps settle your stomach. If you have an upset stomach and you drink like ginger ale or carbonated water, it actually helps. So, I don't know. Anyway, thank you, Snow Carl. All right. Anzo Kamaru to the $1.50. Says, I think you should say there's nothing coming out that I care about rather than it's a dead month or there are no games coming out. There's tons of great games releasing all the time you ignore or have no interest in. No hate, such a suggestion. I just said that. When I was saying about July, I said there's literally only 2 games that I have interest in. Stray and As Dusk Falls, and that's it. I'm not really interested in anything else. I know there's always constant games coming out. A lot of indie titles, mobile games, things on PlayStation Plus and Game Pass, but for the most part, I look at the game release schedule, I'm just not interested in many or any games coming out in the month of July. So outside of the 2 that I mentioned, everything else will be Final Fantasy VII, the Viewer's Choice playthrough, Capcom Fighting Collection, likely some other chill playthroughs like I've already suggested, like Super Mario 2. Or maybe we'll jump into one of these games over here from PS Plus Premium, like Motorstorm Apocalypse, or something else. We'll think about it, okay? Awesome. All right. Voland tipped $5 and says, hey, Phil, since you mentioned Spoonie, can you imagine doing a DSP Reacts for the Down the Rabbit Hole about him? This was something that I originally suggested, 2 months ago when I announced that I was going to start doing React-style content. I had mentioned that I was a fan of Spoonie and his content on the internet, 15 years ago. Basically, when I was watching things like the Angry Video Game Nerd and the Nostalgia Critic, Spoonie was one of that group, that guy with the glasses.com, that not only was putting out his own content, but was a frequent cooperative guy. He would always be in other people's videos as a character. He actually showed up many times in the Nostalgia Critics videos as a character. Whenever they did their big crossover movie events, he was a major character. So I basically knew of him and had watched a bunch of his shit as being part of that, you see. And then, essentially when I stopped watching that content, I didn't watch AVGN anymore. I didn't watch that guy with the glasses anymore because I started being my own content creator. Around 2010 is when I completely just cold turkey quit watching anything that they were putting out. And instead I focused full time on being my own guy, my own content creator, you see. So I didn't know anything about those guys anymore. And then over the years, I had heard that I guess Spoonie had been canceled, that he had essentially got unhinged and said really disgusting, sexist, and sexual things about someone on the internet who I don't even know who they are. And basically it blew up in his face and everyone turned on the guy and said, we want nothing to do with this fucking guy because he was doubling down on the shit he was saying and stuff or something. I don't know, but that's all I've heard. I don't know the truth of it because I never investigated. I haven't tried to catch up with any of that stuff. Admittedly, it would probably be a daunting task to try to get caught up with, over 10 years of missed content. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, anyway, that's about all I know. Anyway, yeah, so there is a Down the Rabbit Hole video about Spoonie, or the Spoonie Experiment, which is what he used to call his site, that I guess covers him as a person and a content creator. I've never seen it, so I don't know what it entails, but that was one of the things that I considered I would one day react to. Originally, I had that as an option, and people weren't very interested. They were like, nah, don't really care. But maybe now, moving forward, people would be interested. I don't know. Okay. And then Jackson, top tipper of the day, at $10 tip. He says, if everyone tips $1 right now, you have to put on all your stuff immediately. I mean, you're right. As you guys know, we have tips goals on this stream. If we raise $50 in tips, I put on Gunner glasses. If we raise $100 in tips, there's a poll, and you guys will pick a hat for me to wear. Very silly options like a Pikachu hat, the beanie, right? The cowboy hat. We'll have a few different options there. And then if we hit $150 in tips, then I have to wear a vest, and you guys will pick a vest. I would say tonight we'll probably be platinum, gold, red, camo, or denim. We'll have to figure it out. But anyway, yes, those are the goals, all right, for tips. And he's absolutely right, Jackson. If everyone tipped $1 right now, I'd have $467. And that would help a lot. I'd be very pleased and happy because that would help me out. It would. I don't expect to make $467 on today's stream. Just being fair, I don't think that's going to happen. It'd be nice if it did, but I'm not expecting that to happen. Okay? Okay. I need to blow my nose quickly because it's really bothering me. And then we're going to do a little bit of Q&A to end the pre-stream show here today. The Level 1 podcast. Ugh. Ugh. Oh. Oh. Oh my God. Okay. Sorry about that. An entire gremlin came out of my left nostril. It was Spike, with the mohawk. To beat the shit out of him. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, for 10 minutes, let's open up the Q&A. If you'd like to ask me a question, please tag me in the stream chat, and I will do my best to answer your questions and inquiries. By the way, already 101 likes on the stream. Thank you guys for that. I really appreciate that. 101 likes. We've hit our likes goal, and that means people will be engaged and come check out the stream today, hopefully. Excellent. When will I be playing Maneater? I have no idea. I have no plans to play it right now. Jay Kuma says, you should play Bravely Default. I know all about it. I also know it's incredibly lengthy. I'm more interested in other RPGs at this time, so it's not going to happen anytime soon. Mando, re-up his membership at the super supporter level for 12 months. So do you like breakfast sausage or bacon more? I guess it depends. It really depends. And it also depends on how I'm having it. Like, if I'm having it by itself, both can be quite tasty. As a compliment, like, I think if I were to choose eating it by itself, sausage, but bacon is good as an ingredient in things, I don't know. I like them both. Shout out to the Cowboy, 1983, who took me $1.50, says, hello, Cowboy. I'm wondering which Harry Potter game you'd be willing to play. I'd recommend playing Prisoner of Azkaban and the Half-Blood Prince on 360. Hope you will also consider playing the original 3 Spider-Man games. Persona 4 Golden or Persona 3 Portable. I never played Persona 3 Portable, and I also never played Persona 4 Golden. I played both of the original games on PS2. But if I had to replay them, I'd probably play Persona 4 again. Persona 3 had a lot of outdated mechanics I didn't really like, and the final boss is the most annoying, boring thing ever. Persona 4 is a better game, in my opinion. As for Harry Potter, I'm not against playing Harry Potter games. If people really wanted to see them, especially if they're on Game Pass, right? That would be excellent. I don't know if they are, but I'd be down for that if you guys ever wanted it. Have I ever had halal meat? I have no idea, Umar. I honestly can't answer that. I don't know. Lemoncast says, are Rich and I on good terms now? We were never on bad terms. I swear to God, the internet wants to orchestrate drama. When were Rich and I on bad terms? I don't remember that. I don't remember us going at each other's throats and constantly attacking each other and being nasty to each other. I don't think it's ever happened. I don't know. Jeez. James says, did I ever have the strategy guide for Final Fantasy VII, the Prima one? I might have. I very well might have. I don't know. at this point, I can't confirm I don't have it anymore, but I might have had it back in the day. For RPGs, I usually did try to buy a strategy guide. If I play Final Fantasy XIV, the stream will blow up. I don't believe that, Jern Beck, but thanks for the opinion. Excuse me. Would I be open to playing Final Fantasy XIV? It's primarily single player. I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I don't. I know it's an MMO style game. I never played it, man. Yes, I did love TMNT Shredder's Revenge. Just a shame that for the kind of game it is, it's so short. But I did like it a lot. After Final Fantasy VII, will I play Dirge of Cerberus? I don't know anything about Dirge of Cerberus. I can't answer that. I don't even know what it is. Spin-off game? Do I still have my PS3? I do, but it doesn't connect to the internet. That's the problem. It doesn't work. It bricked itself. There was an update in late December, early January. I forget when. And I plugged it in because I wanted to maybe play some retro games on it. And I turned it on and said, oh, there's a required console update. So I downloaded the update off the internet. And as soon as I loaded it on the console, it doesn't connect to the PSN anymore. It's blocked. I have no idea why. It just doesn't work. It just has its error code that pops up. It basically bricked itself when it comes to the internet. I can still play discs on it, but that's it. I can't connect to the internet with it. Well, I played Call of Duty this year. I don't know. I'm waiting for the beta. I want to play the beta of Call of Duty. Once I play the beta, I'll make a judgment. Just like I did with Vanguard last year. Is there a possibility I'll play it? Yes. Am I locking into it and confirming and committing? No. I want to see how the beta plays, and then we'll make a decision. Do I still want to play Lost Odyssey? Yes, one day I do. However, right now, I definitely feel like Final Fantasy VII makes sense to prepare for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth next year. I'm craving playing Earthbound. Like, these are things that I want to do now. While Lost Odyssey, there really is no time limit on it, you see? Am I experiencing retro burnout? No, and here's why. Because I'm playing so much different retro stuff. We got retro fighting games, we got retro platformers, now we're hitting into retro RPGs. Because I'm doing a variety of retro stuff, it's keeping me excited. If we had played Mario Brothers 1, Mario Brothers 2, Mario Brothers 3, Super Mario World, Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island, see? Then I would have gotten bored. At least in the Castlevania collection and the Sonic collection, the games are short enough that you don't feel that burnout because within a week or two, you're done. You've played all the games in the series, you see? So, actually not at all. I'm having a great time right now. I am. I'm having a really good time, and I hope you guys are too with all the stuff I'm doing. Am I going to use my green screen or Stream Deck? I don't have a green screen. The green screen's been gone for years. It broke at one point in my garage, and I threw it out. All right? I don't have a green screen that would work for the office, and I can't do a green screen. As you know, even if I try to do a high-quality webcam on my stream, the frame rate dips. I can't do anything new with my current setup. If and when I'm able to get a better setup, and I upgrade my webcam, and I upgrade my computer, then I'll consider a green screen. As for my Steam Deck, no, I'm not using, Stream Deck, no, I'm not using that either, because that requires me to upgrade my Windows, which I'm not going to do. This PC is outdated. I don't want to start upgrading Windows and shit on it. I don't leave it as is, so it works. When I get a new PC, an upgraded setup, then I can start using Stream Deck with the new one. And I will. I'll program it to do things with the buttons. Jay Kuma says, what if we want to donate a PS3? I know this sounds ridiculous. It would be great to see you play games that are locked to the PS3 like Chrono Trigger, Mega Man Legends, Tokyo Jungle. Yeah, I mean, if anyone ever wants to donate anything, you contact me. darksidefil@hotmail.com. We'll talk about it behind the scenes. We'll figure it out. Okay, don't just send me something. I'll tell you right now, if you just send me something, I don't know what it is, here's what happens. It arrives, and here's a trash can, and it goes right in the trash can. Because I just can't trust people to send me shit that's not going to be harmful. I've had people send me some really nasty, harmful things in the past, and I just can't. So anything that comes, I don't know what it is. It literally goes straight into the trash, and I never open it. But if you let me know ahead of time and we talk about it and I confirm what it is, then we'll talk. We can figure it out. Would I agree Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of the best narrative games in history? Yes. Jade says, "Is this your first Final Fantasy stream? I don't know the history." This is, yeah, we didn't start playing this yet, Jade. This is the premiere of this game. There's not much to say. It's the first PlayStation Final Fantasy, and they tried to do something different with the series from the ones on SNES, and you'll see firsthand today as we start what that entails. Romy Rose, you ever tried Xbox Cloud? How does it compare to PS5 streaming games? I have not tried it. I didn't try it. Nope. The thing is, on Xbox, you don't have to stream the games. You can download them on Game Pass, you know. On PlayStation, you have to stream the PS3 games. So, I haven't tried the Xbox because there's no point. I'm just going to download the game, and that way there's no chance of issues, you see? Will I play Reunion, Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII in December? It's a maybe for me. I played Crisis Core on the PSP back in the day. In fact, it was my favorite game on PSP when I owned one. I really liked the game, although the thing that gets me about this remake is that the game was very grindy, and I remember a lot of times you had to do a lot of repetitive combat to level up in order to progress in the game, and I'm wondering how that's going to translate into a console game. You know, portable, the whole point is, oh, you play it on the go. You're on a train, a plane, a bus. You're killing time with this portable, so the grinding is okay. Console, I don't know how it's going to translate, but maybe I'm misremembering it. I don't remember. Expand Dog found a secret phase in the dogfight boss of Cuphead where the screen will never turn upside down. It makes the fight easier, but there's a secret way to do it, and I'll never guess it. Well, I already beat the DLC, so you're right. I never will. Thank you. There you go. Yes, Seabass, you can have a taco. Would I ever do a second playthrough of Fallout 4? Yes, and I can confirm I will do it one day on the Xbox Series X at an increased frame rate and better graphics. I will do that. Gecko says, I remember you said you don't like driving on the highway. Doesn't that make your trips much longer? No, because here's why. In the 8 years I have lived in Washington State, I have not once driven on the highway here because everything that I would ever want to do is within regular driving distance. If I want to go to Seattle right now, it's about 30 to 45 minutes on a regular road. Yeah. Alex from Phoenix did a super chat. He says, I think Stream Elements is screwing you over. When I log in to tip, the tip button is disabled. What gives? This is a common glitch with Stream Elements. You log in. If the button's grayed out, click on the tips link again and refresh, and then it'll work. This is something that's been happening for almost a year now. I don't know why. No one can explain it. It doesn't happen for everyone, but it does happen for a lot of people. And when you do that, it fixes it, and then you can tip. Thank you for the super chat. Okay. How long is this game? I think base game is 40 hours. And then if you do all the content, it's like 80 hours. But the content is very grindy, and I don't know if I'm going to do it. When I say content, I mean there's some hidden bosses and dungeons. And then also, there is a whole chocobo racing league at the amusement park. And if you train your chocobos and win all the races, you get and breed them. You get the golden chocobo, and the reason you need it is because the golden chocobo flies, and you can fly the chocobo to a hidden island where you get the best attack in the game called Knights of the Round, and you need Knights of the Round to defeat the hidden super bosses of the game. But I don't know if I'm going to bother with that. They take, I mean, I'm not kidding. To do all that shit is like an additional 20 plus hours of gameplay. That's not very fun. I did it once, and I was like, wow, I did it. I've seen everything in the game. But it's very grindy and kind of like, again, you're using the game to kill time, then it's all right. But if you're actually trying to make entertaining content, it's not very entertaining. So I don't know if we're going to do that. Yes, Knights of the Round is the coolest animation in Final Fantasy VII. It's insane. Okay. When the little puppies are shooting at you, you have to weaken all four, but don't kill them. If you do that, it jumps to phase where they and the girl dog throw slow-moving pineapples. Oh. Interesting. All right, guys. Let's end the Level 1 podcast for today. I hope you enjoyed it. All right, let's take a brief break. I'm going to use the restroom, and then we're going to jump into Final Fantasy VII, all right? Awesome. Thank you. Great pre-stream today. Had a good podcast with all of you. It was enjoyable. And thank you for the support as well. And now let's get the show on the road. Here we go.